We live in such an interesting time in which our shared collective experience unfolds completely differently in your own worldview, depending on the beliefs you hold. Some people already hold to the belief that love is here, it's a dominant reality, which means they're already experiencing what they consider to be New Earth. You can call it dissociation or spiritual bypassing, but to those individuals, the reality that they get to choose their reality literally makes it so. For many other people, there is this persistent belief that for there to be improvement, there must be an external salvation. This belief is rampant in many religious and spiritual communities, as the belief that needing something to lead to the salvation of humanity's sins creates this yearning for the external savior. That savior could be in the form of an actual Messiah, a religious figure that takes humanity's sins onto himself in order to create that clearing and next wave of evolution. At the same time, people will project a savior onto whatever they want to believe will lead to that salvation, be it aliens, or some even believe that 3i Atlas is going to be that field clearing harmonizing technology that causes that same kind of breakthrough event. In all of these cases, though, the clinging on to external salvation is taking attention away from a very important point, which is that in all the stories of the end time prophecies and the dawning of the next chapter, or the reset of the collective consciousness, there is already a certain critical mass of unconsciousness, suffering, and collective sin and trauma that has been amassed, which precipitates that savior and the need for everything to be collapsed or nullified in order for that healing to happen. But at what point do we actually take responsibility for the collective darkness, for the pain body that is in real time being co-created by everybody that isn't clearing their own pain body? Taking responsibility for collective, ancestral, and familial trauma that needs to be purged, healed, and actually understood in order to dissipate all of this weight that is leading to what for many people actually feels like the end times prophecy in the now. This belief causes people to lose sight of their individual element, which is the most important aspect, dismissed in any kind of hive mind formation. Because as soon as we look for a savior, or we wait for something to cause the clearing of our own sins, or to bring us out of a state of despair, we forget what has caused that despair in the first place. And we actually create this hierarchical relationship between us and the divinity that we are responsible for creating by elevating our state of consciousness and no longer contributing to the collective state of unconsciousness through ourselves. But which reality is actually true? Because objectively, there is a certain experience playing out. And when people look around and take in this flooding of information through media, through the news, looking around and actually feeling through the sensitivity of the body how much pain is currently being experienced, it can be difficult to see the light. It can be difficult to believe in a brighter future when we're seeing so many unmet shadows and traumatic aspects played out by individuals on every scale of reality. The question is, when do we actually look into ourselves and notice that we are part of this problem? We're part of the unfolding of the collective trauma and the certain timeline collapse that will lead to the future of humanity. What I mean by that is that every single individual is playing into the collective field because, whether we like it or not, we are part of this collective karma. The pain that we feel is part of the collective pain. Our own pain body is an aspect of the collective pain body because the micro and macrocosms are inevitably interconnected. And so when you feel something like hopelessness, powerlessness, trauma, you are acting on behalf of the collective consciousness to understand that experience. And at that point, you have a choice. What do you do about it? Do you try to mitigate the pain by simply escaping it, taking on a coping mechanism like numbing out feelings, or dissociating by simply believing in something that is a crutch to get out of pain in that situation, which is really the essence of spiritual disillusionment? It doesn't matter what coping mechanism is chosen, if the very thing that you do when you confront pain or individual or collective darkness is you try to find a way to distract yourself from that feeling, what's happening is the same kind of numbing effect within your body that is leading to the perpetuation of wars, conflict, chaos, and disease on the collective scale. This is a sensitive topic because for many people who feel they are empathic and deeply connected to the pain and suffering collectively, it's difficult to experience that degree of pain. Not to mention to feel like you have a part that is responsible for also experiencing it. The key, though, is not to dwell in the energy of suffering or pain, but to actually allow yourself to feel that feeling fully and to understand why it is particularly relevant for you. Because whatever you feel is in resonance within your own body and field with the collective experience that you feel sensitive towards. Is something that seeks deeper understanding. However, the sheer magnitude of trauma and pain and unmet and felt emotions would be overwhelming for the vast majority of people, which causes most individuals to want a way out of that experience. And therein lies the essence of the savior model, looking for anything external to you to be the solution, even if that's simply a belief that puts you immediately in a space of feeling complete and fulfilled, because you're displacing the part of you that actually feels powerless, helpless, out of control, or victimized in that situation. This is the very core of human psychology. The deeper pain that is being summoned for many people to feel is this pain of actually being a compassionate human in a world that still involves so much dysfunction, rampant, all over the place. When you feel splits and you actually see that you are a part of either choosing to stay split or you're bringing oneness through yourself via every act of compassion, love, sensitivity, and empathy that you bring into this world, that becomes your choice and your act of devotion. If you aren't doing that, you're literally feeding a certain timeline where people choose the model of ignorance is bliss, blindly avoiding what needs to happen individually and collectively to meet pain with the energy of love. Are you merely avoiding the experience that has been causing pain for many humans over millennia, including potentially yourself, or are you trying to find a solution by enacting the energy of the solution within yourself, which is one of seeing the full truth of what is unfolding, understanding the pain body of both the collective and yourself, choosing to understand the rupture points, and have empathy for all those that are still in suffering, but most importantly, attending to the parts of you that feel helpless because of that. That brings up the deepest root of victim consciousness, which, if left unresolved, will cause you to feel pain subconsciously and then not know what to do because of it, which ends up fabricating all kinds of false beliefs, either about your powerlessness or the sense that all hope is lost and there's nothing that we can do to support the planet or ourselves. And that will end up bringing up this obsession with some savior, some event, some future focus that will allow you to feel deeper peace within yourself because you become confident. That attachment is why you can surrender in the now moment. But see how that's a false trap that actually secludes your ability to be the savior for yourself. As whenever you are outsourcing the condition of love, peace, unification, or harmony, you are effectively robbing yourself of the ability to create any of those things. The truth is, these are inherent conditions within each and every human being. We lose sight of these things because we are feeling into the energy of pain which can ultimately serve as the deepest blind spot that prevents us from merging with our bliss body and the truest state of being in which we feel fully and we allow ourselves to be who we were when we came into this world, naked, free of fears, full of possibilities, and completely connected to all parts of ourself and the environment around us. Right now, there is this density that many people are feeling because many are also hypothesizing we don't have a choice, and the timeline that is going to collapse into the future state of humanity is one that will bind us to a feeling of powerlessness. Now, really, this future timeline collapse will involve people's ability to stay true to themselves even when things will change that will really challenge your ability to stay connected to who you truly are. Meaning when attachments are challenged, when we go through economic, political, and all kinds of systemic changes, will you feel threatened because of these changes? Or will you be able to release control, embrace the nature of uncertainty, and actually treat this as a blessing in disguise, allowing you to come closer to your soul's nature? Because those who feel comfortable with themselves in the here and now really have nothing to be afraid of. If you're loaded with fears, if you're waiting for something to save you, you might feel, actually, the savior or the reset you've been awaiting will come in the form of the opposite of what you're probably expecting. It'll feel like the rug is being pulled up from under your feet, and all of a sudden everything you wanted to attach to is now actually being revoked. What you're going to be left with is yourself and your capacity to feel fully even when mental beliefs end up imploding, because the mind isn't going to win in such a situation. The future scenario that humanity is going to be navigating involves us all really looking into ourselves and deciding what future do we want to live in, because there's going to be multiple different futures playing out on planet Earth at the same time. Whatever emotional experience you house within yourself will be the undertone of that future you experience. And the ultimate way of preparing for this is choosing to go inward to the degree that the future no longer scares you and you don't feel encumbered by any of the things that may happen externally, because they no longer will threaten your sense of self. Yes, the energy on the planet is changing. Yes, a lot of humanity's blind spots and darkness will be exposed, but that illumination will also provide the opportunity for every individual who has been obstructing aspects of their shadow, their pain, their unresolved aspects that they have not been wanting to see, to also go through that same level of revelation. That will feel extremely uncomfortable if you're still trying to hide from any parts of yourself. However, if you choose the side of openness, to allow the process that's going to unfold to be one of you witnessing yourself ever more deeply, then you're going to feel like this is actually an invitation to step into your best self, which at the same time will allow your fears to subside and bring you into a new way of interacting with reality, which really brings you into the seat of agency. Agency is the forgotten aspect if you right now are waiting or spiritually bypassing to not feel some elements inside you that have been bringing up pain. Agency allows you to take all your power and energy back and choose from the now moment, and literally quantum jump to allow for all unresolved parts of you to be mended when you actually bring your awareness fully into what you can do to make this reality a better one, born out of love and values. Personal truth winning rather than illusions and lies to disguise those unresolved parts of your being. In the same way, humanity actually has that choice right now. On a macrocosmic scale, there is a timeline in which humanity chooses to heal these painful aspects and enter a new age in which technology, systemic governance, and individual sovereignty prevails in a way of actually enforcing peace and deeper freedoms. However, that would involve individuals also choosing to do this deep work of integration, and it's highly unlikely that this is going to happen. I truly feel that things are going to have to expose a lot more pain, therefore lead to more pain and suffering before this wake-up call is experienced. Because that has been the recurring trend and human tendency for epochs of time, especially in a third density reality in which what leads to evolution typically is the emanation of more duality. Already there are so many splits which are observed and already part of the common knowledge. However, it's our way of dealing with those splits that still isn't bringing up the energy of resolution. Even though we know that we have to make a better choice, many people are avoiding the obvious choice within themselves to come out of suffering. And so that is the most important thing for you to personally feel into. In order to not get swept away with spiritual bypassing or various dissociative coping mechanisms, imagine you are needing to take onto yourself this awareness of humanity's sins, including your own, and any other aspects that you know are creating the limitation that prevents a positive course of evolution. When you see and feel this deep density that the earth is still navigating, that so many people are bringing as this sludge into our future, immediately you're going to feel what is your role in navigating this with greater wisdom. And it's going to bring up also the way in which you learned to face things that feel extremely uncomfortable. Do you try to escape them? Do you move into a mode of being an emotional martyr and move into suffering without actually seeing you can transmute that and choose better for yourself? Do you start bypassing things and move out of your body, out of the heart, into a mental place of just trying to distance yourself from everything that feels painful? Or do you actually take it upon yourself to feel what is the deepest choice and the most intentional one that allows these sinful behaviors to no longer replicate? Because in that mode of really analyzing through the heart field, only one choice becomes apparent. And that's the choice of making a different one. You see, behind every single sinful action, low-frequency thought form, and emotional state that feels like an impairment right now in the collective field, there's a better choice that could have been made. And you can really see that as a potential timeline that could have existed had that choice been created. Now, given that is a lot of healing that needs to happen to experience all of the splits and all of the better choices that were once compromised on. It brings up every possible emotion to think through that kind of perspective. And yet that also brings up in you now a powerful motivation if you're willing to see at this level of depth what you can do and what you can feel to honor the potential that actually exists in the field. This is all unclaimed potential. And if humans would start to reason in this way, deep in their heart space, to feel what can I do as an individual and as a fractal of source consciousness to actually make this world a better place, it of course begins with you. You are a child of so many descendants that have each brought their bit of collective karma through the DNA, through the family lineage, and into your field to now sort through all the different variants of what makes you you. And then when you learn to separate from that, you'll feel that maybe your soul has brought in even deeper awareness and wisdom that can only be implemented if you actually move yourself apart from all of these tendencies that overshadow your light and your truest gifts. Because if you now choose to shine the spotlight on where you can be a better version of yourself each and every day, you're going to feel this awakening of opportunity to feel deeper, to show up more fully, to allow your authenticity to be a source of inspiration in your field and in others. And that's going to allow you to feel that new earth energy can actually be accessed in a non-dissociative manner. You can start to embody it when you feel that you're acting on behalf of everyone and everything that didn't choose integration, that didn't allow love to win. As soon as you impart within yourself this gift of grace and patience and sensitivity, you start to become this living bridge between the source field and your own field. And in that, a real transference of energy happens. You will therefore respond differently to all kinds of collective shifts that might have otherwise put you in a space of confusion, disempowerment, or disorientation. But I promise you, if you allow yourself to actually stay open to this degree by nourishing yourself every single day, letting yourself feel that, you can be part of humanity's awakening by letting yourself awaken to these deeper truths, feeling it all, and also not guarding yourself, knowing that much change is on its way. Then you'll be able to respond to things in a way that beliefs don't need to dictate your fate, because beliefs are only really the cover to the energy field that creates our collective reality. Your reality is configured by all the choices that you are making energetically through how you see things, how you respond to them, how you treat your body, how you treat other people. That's where integrity lives, in that space of you actually showing up through your heart when nobody's watching. And that is what's now being put to the test. Even when it's between you and God, you and your own soul, when you aren't even sure why certain things are collapsing in real time in the way that they are, maybe you can see that as the ideal opportunity for you to prove to yourself that you're choosing to embody this actionable practice of embodying love fully. Because when you do that, everything else becomes irrelevant. The attachment to various spiritual convictions, prophecies, end time stories, or savior dynamics, because you will know in real time that you can feel oneness within yourself. You can end sinful paradigms by choosing to be an embodiment of love. And you can feel in real time the ripple of healing come through your entire field and into others, because that is the energetic reality of authenticity and its power to mend reality through you. It's time to stop waiting and actually start creating this future that you would want to experience. If you imagine that there's actually no future state, there's only the inevitable collapse of what we're currently navigating, which is already a self-replicating theme of needing to find redemption through ourselves by stopping the war within and starting to find the coherent strategy which allows us to not fear chaos, but actually start dealing with it with every moment that we share compassion, gratitude, and love with the world, instead of the opposite that is currently plaguing it.